thing. All I can say, James, is you're worth it. So, Bill, tell us where you're up to on this journey with this stuff.
Okay. I went through Liberation Unleashed with my guide, and I'm working on the 10 fetters with Pernilla with her YouTube. I don't actually talk to her, but I'm watching the YouTube and the fetters, and I've gone through the first 5. I'm going back through them again. There's just so much to learn. So
yeah, okay, good one. And what about you, Asa? Osa, you're muted.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I'm working. I'm started at the 3rd fetter. Also listening at the YouTube recordings. Struggling
Okay.
with that. Going back and forth. Started again with the first fetters. And yes.
Okay.
Lots to learn.
Yeah, well, maybe to unlearn is more appropriate than to learn. Yeah? Yeah. And I've got an idea about everybody else, I think. Yeah. So. Has anybody got anything up front, pushing to come out? Questions, experiences? Yeah, look, I just want to say to all of you, yeah, just before you go, Anna, nothing formal here. Okay, don't put your hand up to talk or wait for a space. You'll never get to say anything. Just jump in. Okay. Go, Anna.
So I recently have been really tuning into body and, just into sensations and recognizing like mind patterns, stories, beliefs, and sensations in the body. So yesterday I was getting outside, was getting ready to go for a walk, and I noticed there is like something like excitement, like I'm just getting so excited about getting out and going for a walk. If anyone has dogs, like when you get a dog before letting them out, they just go so hyper. That's like myself getting like this. And same time, like I notice there is like a fear in the background, like I'm not getting there, like a fear of missing, like there is excitement of getting and fear of not getting. And they both simultaneously there. And, like I feel like I'm getting so hyper and this, like rush to get somewhere, just like go, 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 just in case if you miss it. And I just, like it just getting like more hyper and more hyper. So I thought, like, I really need to sit down with this and just see what is happening there. So I sat down and just, like going into the body to see what is happening in the body itself. And strangely, like in the body, it was pretty calm. It was just like very, very subtle vibration going, but like very subtle. So I just sat there in the body, just waiting for something to come up. Maybe there is something else. Just sat there, but nothing, like, like when mind is observing body, it settles down as well. So I can't really, there is like a massive difference, like on external level, like such a big excitement and such a big rush and, like hyperness and all this, and in the body it's just like calmness. That's what I'm getting like very confused about. Like, why is there such a big mismatch? Because this is not the first time, you know, like, because, you know, I'm working with that reactivity, noticing, and when something happens, and again, sometimes, you know, like in the traffic, someone cuts me, and I can see, you know, like there is like a hot flash into a face, and like heart is jumping, and but mine just, you know, like getting like in really defensiveness, and when I notice, you know, because this very same body sensations came up when I thought I made an error at work, but I actually didn't make a mistake. And a very same reaction came. It just like, you know, like, and then I was looking, you know, what is happening on the road and what is happening at work. It's just like a fear, very strong fear response coming in. But yeah, it's, you know, like, it's very strange, you know, like to see like in the mind so much and then the body just completely different stories. That's what confuses me.
Okay. Okay, what comes up for me here when you're talking is forget about the why. Okay, you might never find an explanation for what's going on, and it's irrelevant. Any explanation is just an attempt to satisfy the mind. Right. What you were doing was just brilliant. And that is that you were just looking at what was going on. And isn't it interesting that you can hold two quite different things at the same time? So you've got a calmness and you've got an excitement, both at the same time. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Excitement and fear, Vincent, you know, like there was that like, oh yes, getting for a walk, and same time, you know, like, oh my gosh, but just in case if I'm not going to get there. Yeah, that's, you know, like openness and, you know, contraction, like, because they're very opposite, but they feel very similar.
Yep. Yeah, so what we discover when we're not consumed by chasing thoughts down rabbit holes is that you can hold two quite different things at the same time. Now, whether you actually flip from one to the other and back and forward really fast, or whether they're both there simultaneously, we don't know. You know, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the mere fact that you and what also comes up for me is you've got to watch the mind saying, I have to do something. I better sit down and discover, or you know, whatever instructions the mind gives you, you can be sure is going to take you away from what you're looking for rather than into it. Even though it promises to take you into it, it won't. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. And there are no answers. Just how interesting is it, eh? Really, really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And also, like, not this week, a week before, I don't know, it was something really was just like working through and just coming up. I was like for 3 days, it was just like energetic cleansing. And then it just like at some stage there was like a lot of beliefs and just like a lot of sadness and, you know, crying and just like fear, just like a lot really just coming and cleansing. And so it started on Tuesday. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Fridays, there was a lot like shame and beliefs coming up, you know, like I saw them. And after talking to Pernilla on her meeting, I went to shop and I was just like, oh my gosh, but they are all just stories, you know, some beliefs, you know, like I'm not good enough and I'm like unworthy and all this. And that is just like another story. And it's all what it is. You just holding them, some stories like that is something true. And anymore, I'm walking in the shop and just like something like dropped. I just felt like such relief. So all the Friday night and Saturday, Sunday, I was like, you know, like, I don't know, like using some drugs or something. I was just so relaxed. That was very strange as well.
Yeah. So what?
Very strange.
what that shows, what that tells me too, is a classic, you know, something that we need to appreciate. And that is that as we clear, as we get this stuff out, other stuff will come up. And we've got to immediately recognize that's come up as a result of filters being, you know, we've cleansed the surface and we can allow new stuff to come up. It doesn't mean that we've gone backwards. A lot of people will go, I'm not there because that's happened. And they go, and they think it's an undoing, but it's not an undoing. It's a further doing, if you like, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like going deeper into another layer and another layer.
Yep.
Is it like you know, like pie? You just like lift one layer and another layer of a pie. Or like, you know, like onions, you just peel onions, one skin, another skin, another skin.
Yep. That's a good analogy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that there's any end to this. I mean, it does get more subtle, and they seem to get further apart, these episodes of stuff coming up. But who knows? I don't know if there's any end to it.
Oh,
imagine there
another thing came up. It was, you know, like after that cleansing, whatever was happening, and I remember I woke up and like I very often have them, you know, like images, like visual, like insights, and I remember, you know, like it came up and it felt like closer to the core of belief, whatever. I don't know what that core is, but it just came up like this. Closer to the core you're getting, it's getting like more like slightly vibrating. And further away you are from the core, it's like more wavy, like there is more space to maneuver it, you know, like more space for sinking, more space for like a strong emotional charge, like big waves. And closer to the core you're getting, it's just like very, very, very like subtle vibrating. I don't even know what this meant, but this just came up like this.
Yeah. It's interesting. Oh.
Yeah. So just basically keep watching what mind is saying and what body is doing without asking why.
Yeah. And I would only even watch what mind does if it tries to take you away or interfere with what's going on. I mean, otherwise, you know, I mean, my mind just works in the background. I don't even know what it says half the time. I don't pay attention to it. It's full of shit.
It's like radio in the background. Like a commentator, you know, commentating the game, what is happening.
Oh, yeah, it does that. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to pick on every one of you if I get a chance, so you might as well speak up if you've got something to say.
Well, I'll jump in. So, Vince, I'll get the pain over with, will I?
Okay,
I'll be
Don.
sitting here waiting to be picked on. Thanks. I was just this afternoon I was listening to Lisa Cairns for a little while, and she said something that I can't remember exactly, but something I've probably heard 1,000 times, like be aware of what your thoughts are doing or something. And I noticed some thoughts, and I know they're like the usual stories about my life that I'm trying to figure out how to make my life better or make myself feel miserable thinking about my life or something. And I often sit here or wherever I sit, being aware of the thoughts, and I kind of like, some part of me goes, the awareness, the thing that Paul was talking about last week, I guess the subject of the sentence is the subject of awareness. So I go, okay, awareness is the subject, aware of this, all these thoughts, stories and whatnot. And yet, like, part of me goes, I feel like awareness is who or what I am. And at the same time, the thoughts so feel like me, and the stories so feel like they're about me. I'm like, oh my God, why do they still feel like they're about me? I can't see these stories as not being about me. They feel like they're about me. And then so I listened to something Lisa said, and then for like 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour, it's like, oh, the stories aren't about me. I'm just watching thoughts going past, and they feel the same, but they just didn't seem like they were about me for a half an hour. And then it sort of trickled back in and kind of grabbed me with little subtle thoughts, and now it sort of feels like me again. So I'm just reporting that's what happened for, I don't know what, and it's frustrating to me because I sometimes kind of see it a little bit like that, and then kind of these little bits of thoughts come in, and it so feels like me again. And I'm like, I saw it before. Why can't I see it again now? I'm back to being persuaded that these stories are about me again. And I know the pattern of telling these. It feels like I'm in. I won't go on too much longer. But was I saying something another time about the space between thoughts? Maybe I was saying to someone else. I don't know about a gap between thoughts most of the time. It seems like a torrent of like. I feel like I'm in multiple storylines about my life, and that's where the present moment, inverted commas, is in the mind. In the present, between the past and the future. I'm in all these storylines, and they're all happening, and that's where I feel I am. And to be out of that is really unusual for me. To be even if I have very few like thoughts, explicit thoughts right now, it still feels like I'm in stories.
Okay.
Even if there's almost no thoughts. So getting out of that is really unusual. So that's the next. Anyway, so I had a little space from that this afternoon for a while, and I don't know how. Maybe it just happens at random every now and then if I keep listening or keep looking.
Okay. All right. Be quiet for a minute and let me talk.
Okay.
When you had that moment, you had that 10 minutes after you listened to Lisa talk, and then you felt like it was all undone and you're back to your old self, right?
A little bit, yeah.
What you did was you downplayed. What you did was you focused on what came afterwards instead of on that. Right? That was a moment of being awake. That
Okay.
where you recognize that your thoughts were just happening. They weren't actually about anything real. You recognize it. You had an awake experience, which you then proceeded to ignore and focus on the fact that you were back where you didn't want to be. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I know. I tend to do that. I mean, no, I was, moderately optimistic and positive that it was a good thing that had happened.
Okay.
I just
So
hope
you
that it
also-
will happen again soon or something.
Yeah. So you got a story that should be a permanent thing?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's rubbish.
Okay.
The other, I forgot the other thing I was going to say to you. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It'll come back. Yeah. But it's important to appreciate that even though we might say we're not yet awake, that we do have little episodes of being awake in the midst of not being awake. Okay. And when you are awake, you'll realize that this whole idea of being awake is ridiculous. It's just a story, another story, isn't it? We have about ourselves. So that appreciation of those little moments is really valuable. That's all I want to say at the moment. See you.
Vince, I'd like to recount a story. I don't know if this will chime with you, Don, but many years ago, I was on a business course, and you do the icebreakers at the beginning of the course. So there's 200-300 people in this big hall, and you're supposed to go around, shake hands with somebody, and just say to them something good that had happened to you in the previous week. So I'm happily going around doing my meet and greet. And I think I got through about 15 or 16 people saying, oh, hello, my name's James, blah, blah, blah. This happened to me this week. It was really good. Got to the 17th person, couldn't think of something else to say that was good that week. And that really made me feel like a bummer because I'd already granted 17 things that were good. but I got to the one point where I couldn't think anything else was good, and I was just focusing on that. Spoilt my whole day, you know. So I don't know if that happens with you, Don, but you know, we can have lots and lots of good things happening, and the one shitty thing is the thing that seems to sit in my head and carry on gnawing away.
Yeah, I wouldn't think I get to 17 people, to be honest, but yeah, that definitely happens to me. Yeah.
Yeah. You feel different to me, Don. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what, but you feel different to me.
Yeah, a little bit. It's funny, just in the last week or so. Yeah. When was I talking to you? Just yesterday, I guess, but little by little. Yeah. As I say, was it last week? Todd and Pernilla were to me on Tuesday, and they really helped me a lot. And because I was really struggling for a little while there, and I'm struggling still, but a little bit different from what I was a week ago. So yeah, thank you. I feel a little bit more sane, maybe. Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Sometimes I just noticed in the last few days, and again, I don't know, last September, October. This is totally random to say this out loud, but sometimes I have this, even though I feel, mostly a bit miserable and depressed still, but every now and then I think to myself, am I on something? I feel like I've taken a tranquilizer or something. It feels like calmer somewhere. I'm like, oh no, I didn't take anything. I'm just watching bloody non-duality videos. It seems to be helping.
And something clicks. Yeah. Something even unknown. You don't even realize what it is that's shifted, that's changed. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny. Yeah. Slowly, hopefully.
Yeah. Especially at these meetings, I often feel quite high. Feel like I've been smoking pot or something, but I haven't. But yeah, I get that feeling. Yeah.
Hi. I signed up a couple of days ago to an offering on the Rupert Spira site for a set of 5 meditations called Ending the Search for Enlightenment. So I've only done the first one, but it was really powerful, and he's all about the direct experience. So it was a really lovely meditation where he where you're just letting thoughts and sensations and everything without preference just come and go. And then he asks, what is it that's aware, or how do you know you're having an experience? Anyway, through the process, my connection with that aware part of me was so clear. And when Don talked about being on a tranquilizer, I thought, maybe that's what's happened to me, because I just feel this calmness. It was so powerful to just spend that time feeling a connection to the part of me that's aware. It was, I don't know, I've meditated for a couple of years, wanting, I think, to find that connection. And because there was effort going on, it was never something that I could reliably connect with. But with his meditation, it was like, bang, I was there. And it was just so lovely to be in that place and seeing all these thoughts and whatever just coming and going, and not feeling any attachment to any of it. So I feel that I still have that feeling, that just very calm, unruffled space.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And Maureen, it comes to mind here to say it wasn't the meditation that did that for you. That's not quite right, but what I'm saying is, you, as a result of what was going on, doing the meditation, you got in touch with or out of touch with the compulsion to obey thoughts or be manipulated by thoughts. So you got into that calm space. That is, it's you. It's don't give meditation the credit.
No, I get that, but it gave me the experience, and it was
Yeah.
in that experience, it was like, wow, like, I don't know.
So you don't have to be meditating to get that.
No, absolutely. No, I totally get that. But it allowed me to experience that. Wait a minute, there is this other
Yes.
thing that's awareness that's there, but isn't a thought and isn't a sensation and isn't an emotion. And so that was, and it's me, it's who I am. It's always there.
Yep.
And always been there. And so that's, yeah.
Okay, so that brings up another one for me that I don't want to put too much emphasis on at this stage, but just to mention it and let it be in the background. And that is that what I call the awareness trap, right? You are not awareness. Awareness is not a thing. However, it's not a bad resting place for the moment to be that. Right? You are not a thing. Whether you
Well, a thing would make it an object. It's not an object.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah. So the awareness trap is to see awareness as, or consciousness as, something that you are. So it's still an identification. And what we're looking at is to get rid of all identification.
Huh.
Okay. So what you are is a mystery that cannot be explained or described. That's as close to something as you're allowed to get, if you know what I mean.
That I'm a mystery. Say that again, that I'm.
What you are is a mystery that you cannot be explained or described. It's beyond the capability of a human brain to comprehend what you actually are.
Well, consciousness feels like that too. Like that feeling of awareness. I can't explain it or describe it.
Yeah. So
either.
there is a feeling of awareness. That's something that's quite how can I put it? It's a solid thing, but it is right. Our language stuffs us up. Okay, so let's say a proper word would be awareing, right? So it's a verb. It's not a noun. It's something that happens. You are aware.
Can I try to help you out there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So this awareness, that's you. When you are aware of it, for lack of a better word, when you're aware of it, is there any pressure in your face or your body that goes with it that you would say is a me? Or is it just a floating nothing in space? Like, what's behind the awareness? Who's aware? Was there a point of contraction or a point of pressure, even light in your body at all, in your face, in your chest? Or is it just like a floating sense?
I would say that. Definitely not any pressure. It's just.
So that's where to look.
Spaciousness.
Yes,
and
spacious.
I could describe it in, it's calm, it's unperturbed, it's just very peaceful.
So where to look would be if it's an identification, or if it's just awarenessing happening, or if there's any identification for me feels like a small pressure somewhere that identifies as being aware. Otherwise, there's just spaciousness. So that would just be somewhere to look to see if there was identification with it as a me being aware rather than just awareness happening.
So what also comes up here for me is another one that's rather interesting, and that is that everything that you're describing, that calmness, that peace, it has no substance whatsoever. What it is the absence of all the opposites. So calmness isn't a thing, but the opposite is a thing, right? The stress or the opposite of peace, tumult, or whatever you would want to, however you want to say that, being tossed around, right? So all of these things you're describing are indescribable because they're nothing. They're not a thing. Only their opposites exist. That's an interesting thing to get your mind around. Like there's no such thing as trust. It's the absence of mistrust.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I have a word?
Of course, don't I?
There is something that came up in a discussion on one of the groups. I don't even remember where, but the question is that I am asking myself is why there is at all a need to identify as anything. The self, awareness, consciousness, God, whatever. Whose need is it? Why do we all try to figure that out? That's just something that it doesn't even bug me, but it bugs me when I have any sort of kind of interaction with someone. That's everybody's trying to figure out who they are. Who am I? Where's that need coming from? Honestly, I don't feel that need at all. I don't have any urge to know who I am. I don't understand that need even, I'd say. And now the question is, I don't even know what's the question, but that's why who's looking for that?
No one.
Who's asking? Who's asking?
Aren't there more layers of identity beneath that?
Yeah.
Like you're identifying with a location, a position, time.
Yeah, whatever is needed at the moment, right? So when I'm
I'm-
talking to you, I am identifying as Seb from Poland, right? That's useful.
But beyond that,
I don't know.
you identify, do you not identify as a thing in space and time in a particular position, a physicality?
Whatever need be. If I need to locate myself for any reason, then I identify as an object within a space. When I need to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm looking at the clock and the watch, and I'm checking the time where I am. But there is no identification with it. Let's say like a general one that is kind of constant. It's ever flowing. It's just there's just no need, is there? I don't see that need, that urge or whatever. I don't know. This is something that just comes up recently, that even the wisest so-called sages always identify as something, or they describe us or them as something. There has to be a description. There has to be some kind of a definition. Why? What is it for? I don't get it.
Seb, what you're talking about is how can I put it? Clumsily, I'll say it's advanced stuff. Okay, so you're talking about the eighth fetter stuff, the existence of form and formless. You're talking about I am, that kind of stuff. And it's right. I mean, I'm with you. I agree. It's the mind that wants to say, I think, therefore I am. That Descartes thing. It's the mind that does that. But in actual fact, this body, see, we identify as a body in a way. This body it moves in space, and there are practical reasons to pretend to identify with it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is necessary
But
to kind of be in the body to acknowledge its existence, right?
Yeah.
So I know that when I don't know, jump off that cliff, I will kill that body. So in this particular set of circumstances, it is important to identify as a body. When I am talking to you, I discern myself as Seb, kind of against you, Vince. So there is duality, and that duality is within whatever is, but there is absolutely no way to know what is generally.
so if
I know
say
that I'm completely out of depth, my depth here, but the question is why, or what for? What's the reason? Not why. What is the reason? What is the motor? What is the drive that that gives us all these urges to find out who we are?
Yeah.
And if we are awareness, if the awareness is consciousness, are these two different things? It is all mind stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Every single bit that we utter, that we mumble, this is all mind stuff.
So I imagine I know the answer. If I ask you, who are you, Seb?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I have no clue.
That's what I figure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not.
There is no way to know.
and it's not like who you are is hidden. It's like who you are is not who you are.
Yeah. And it is as well.
Yes.
I think Rupert Spira makes a helpful distinction. He says that the illusion does not go away. What goes away is ignorance. So the illusion of time and space and physicality, it's not that that ever goes away, but it's the ignorance that goes. Gradually layers and layers of ignorance. So it seems to me it's not always mind-based. Are we not drawn to seeing through ignorance and peeling away those layers of ignorance?
We sure are. That's why we're here, most probably.
So isn't that why we ask those questions?
But there's an irony here, David, and that is that when we get to the end of all of that, we accept total ignorance. We understand that we know nothing.
Oh,
Absolutely nothing.
for me, it's
nothing.
The mind is creating everything. So these questions are a way to help the mind focus in a way that can undo the belief of identification. So if I say, well, I'm awareness, and that's a nice resting point, and all these other thoughts are just floating, it's just a way to refocus the mind, which is the creative facility anyway, so that it can see through what seems to be true. And then, so there's some people, they just drop it and they're done. And you're right, Seb, in the end, I can say the seeker is the creation of the seeker. Stop seeking. But that doesn't make any sense to the mind. So this is a way to refocus the mind to help it, I don't know how to explain, disclose its own limited believing, and then resting that its awareness is just a temporary spot until we even look behind that and see there's nothing there anyway. There's no way I can know anything because there's no me. There's just is, right? But some people get there like that. I don't know why. And other people, it's a continual unraveling and looking and until the mind gets done with its tricks.
Yeah. And there's
Well, I wanted to answer. For me, it's, you know, Seb, can you imagine if you have dementia or Alzheimer, and you find yourself in some place and you don't know how you got it and what are you doing here and who are you? And it makes you anxious. I should know, why am I here? And yet all of us, we don't know why we are here in this world and how we got here. And
That sounds like Byron Katie's awakening, where she just dropped all identification and was lost and had to wander through the desert to unravel the patterns that we're unraveling now. When she realized that she was nothing, but she was lost. She didn't know her family, her kids, her grandkids. I don't know if you know her story. I used to be jealous of that. That's what I wanted. I was willing to give up it all to awaken. And now I'm looking at, wow, this is such a kinder way. It's kinder to who seems to be my family, to not forget them.
Yeah.
And yet still, it's more multi-pointed. I can be this and all of that without having to lose that 100%. It just seems to be a kinder way. So now I'm grateful I didn't happen like her.
So Bianca, your what you just mentioned to me, it sounds like you're in your fantasy of the person with dementia is that they find themselves somewhere and they're confused and feeling anxious and all that because they still have the idea that they need to know. So this is an interesting one. I've had the fantasy myself because I watched my mother and my mother-in-law both go through dementia and Alzheimer's for years before they died. And I've had the fantasy that I wonder what it will be like if I get dementia myself. And I wonder if, as a result of waking up, I can reach the point where I don't need to know, even when I've got dementia, where I am and why I'm here and what's going on. If I can just be happy, what I found with my mother in the end for the last probably 12 months of her life with dementia was that we did not need to talk. I just sat beside her and held her hand, and she just had this Cheshire cat grin on her face for the whole time, and we didn't say anything. And that was all that was required. We did not need to define anything.
How beautiful.
So I wonder if we drop the story that we need to know before we get dementia, will it come back after dementia? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, this is actually very similar to our, I think it was yesterday, yesterday's meeting when we were talking about the crutches and drugs and alcohol and whatever, that we can allow ourselves to not to seek and not to ask all those questions when we are drunk or when we are on drugs, or when we meditate or whatever. And we can do it if we are not using crutches just as well. We just kind of have to allow ourselves not to be defined, not to look for any definition of ourselves. The mention of awareness and consciousness, you are awareness, you are consciousness, to me, it used to be quite a big obstacle to anything really, to getting anywhere with this, because I didn't feel as any awareness on or consciousness. How would I know that I am consciousness or awareness? How am I to judge if I already am resting within it or not? Is it the resting point that I'm peaceful at or not? This just doesn't matter. When I dropped that, I allowed myself just to not know. That was the most sort of eye-opening moment to me. We just don't need to know. It's just that simple. There is no need. You take on whatever is needed at the moment. If you get into the car, you are becoming a driver.
Well,
That's pretty much it.
would you distinguish between knowing by way of labels and non-conceptual knowing?
I don't know. I do know the labels because I have the mind. I have, right? We know what I mean. There is the mind that knows, so it labels and it knows what to do with stuff. But the other knowing, sorry, but there is none. I'm completely dumb.
There's no knowing without concepts.
I don't think there is one. I don't think. It's just a loop. Wherever you are getting back to the mind with questions. At least that's what it is for me.
I know I want to jump in here too. There's no such thing as knowing. There's beliefs, but there's no knowing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't know anything. You only believe stuff.
Yeah, you imagine that your mind knows what this is and that I can drink it. So that's kind of knowing that I am talking about, right? So this is like a basic stuff, but I think what we as humans generally confuse is that kind of knowing, that conceptual knowing, that when I'm talking, I know that when I'm talking to this stupid phone, I know that several entities hear me. That is kind of knowing, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to the phone. So that knowing has its place, and it is useful in this 3D or 4D space. That's absolutely fine with me, but I don't know any other knowing. There is just nothing.
You don't even know that, Seb. Let's say, for example, you're on mute.
Of course.
You're on mute and you're talking and you think you know that we're hearing you, but then you discover that you're on mute. So you were just believing that we were hearing you.
Yeah, sure. This is all dependent on the perspective that we take. That's pretty much it. Sorry, say it again, David.
Being is not known.
I don't know if I am. How would I know if I am?
Here's a good one. Here's a good one, David. Do you know that you've got a back to your head?
No.
You can only believe that it's there, right?
Head is conceptual.
Mm.
Sure. That's just an amalgamation of items or whatever, or quarks,
Can you
or
spend,
fluctuations in the in energy fields, whatever.
can you
Where's the head?
talk more about there not being knowing? I'm not getting that.
Not
There,
being knowing.
there's no knowing. How,
I don't know how there could be. I just don't know. I don't understand the conception of the knowing of being, or being the knowing. You know, it's so vague that that there's just, it could be other way.
so you
And
don't
it
know
could
who
be,
you are?
no, I don't.
It's the
I
difference
don't feel
between it's the difference between naked awareness and knowing awareness is what we're all struggling with. Naked awareness, and awareness is just a catch-all term. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and those are all concepts. And a baby does all that, but they don't know that they're seeing. There's no knowledge there. There's no knowledge base. Basic awareness is pure existence. It's life, lifing. That's it. There's no thoughts involved. It's naked awareness. Knowing awareness is after the conceptual base is in place. That's how awareness can know of itself, because you know you have an identification, and you know that that seeing and all this is taking place, and that there is an identification. The identification is just a natural tendency that's conditioned into us. And so we want to identify as something. And as you go up the higher fetters, that disidentification reaches more and more subtle levels until you can never reach the stage of a child again, but you can be as close to no identification as there is. It's called losing even the scent of identification up at 9 and 10. But naked awareness is just simply the senses operating without knowledge of anything going on. And really, there's no knowledge that life is even lifing, because there's just, for all intents and purposes, maybe there's just colors and patterns and shapes, and there's no knowing that there's no patterns and colors and shapes. There's just the pure existence that a child has on the floor. You clap your hands, they respond, but they don't know what they're responding to. They don't know anything. Naked awareness and then knowing awareness. And waking up is when you know that you are not this identification that's been programmed into you all through the years. You realize that you're just the background, but it's the background of knowing awareness now. But it's not an identity. It is simply the ongoing awareness of what is happening in time. It is awareness that experience is going on. That is knowing awareness. It's not an identity. It's just simply recognition of a process. So when you argue about existence, there's pure existence and knowing existence, and waking up is simply realizing what you're not. I hope that clarifies something.
Yeah.
Very good.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Did you want to speak? Anybody? Can I
Don't-
just say something?
Don't ask permission, just jump in, yeah.
I was once in an argument with someone, and it was almost coming to blows. It was almost going into a fight. And it got more and more heated. And then suddenly, the person who was in the fray, this me, suddenly disappeared, and I was back here and just observing. There was something just observing, and that something had absolutely there was no right or wrong of what was going on. It was just observing, and it didn't have a name, it didn't have anything. It wasn't me. And then I came to realize that I wasn't in the me. So I had to fight myself back to get back into the fray. But that was, and it was so swift. But this that it went to, I had no opinion about what was going on. I had no opinion whatsoever. It was completely neutral, and it was just looking out. I've never had that again, but it was just looking out. And I'm glad I had it because I know it's there. Yeah, but I fought to get back into the frame because it was, what was, you know. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because I don't know if it's relevant, but you know.
Yeah, it is very relevant.
The ultimate, when you ask about identification, when you get to the upper fetters, it's the ultimate disidentification. If you ask me who or what I am, my only response to you is that's just what's happening. That's it. You don't add anything and take anything to it. You just, it's not happening to anyone. It's not happening for anyone. There's simply what is happening. And over at Liberation Unleashed, they say it's just lifing. There's no judgments about it. It's just whatever is happening.
Yeah.
It's simple.
And it's interesting that you felt the need to fight back, to get back into the person who was. These days, if it happened to you, I think you would just rest in that and enjoy it for a moment.
Yeah, it's a habit. It's a habit, a bad habit.
I would, yes, I would love that to happen again. But of course, because I would want, it will or it won't, I don't know.
Yeah, it won't happen while you chase it, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm so glad it did happen because.
Yes, it tells you something. Yes, yeah. Kazimir, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to maybe ask a follow-up question, sort of where I'm getting a little stuck, confused right now, mostly around thoughts. So I think maybe recently I've been able to finally stop over-conceptualizing things and kind of separate out or see what you call the naked awareness. And from that perspective, I recently noticed that if you move attention sort of back in this direction, there's actually nothing there as far as naked awareness is concerned. Right? There's ideas of a head, there's ideas of a self, but there isn't anything actually there. But then I noticed that is also true of thoughts. And so if I imagine something, you know, something from the past, a memory or a hypothetical future, and I really pay attention, what is being imagined is some visual appearance or some sound or something. There is no solid self in the thought either.
Right.
And then I try to compare thoughts to sort of present moment here now, naked awareness. And the distinction actually started to break down. Other than this being more vivid, more lucid, both just seem to be self-aware. Like the thoughts are known. This here now is known. It's more vivid. But so I'm finding myself now kind of getting tripped up with what are thoughts and where to look to find the remaining, you know, illusions of self, if that makes sense.
Well, thoughts are energetic farts in consciousness. Let's start right there.
Right.
Okay. And naked awareness as far as you are, naked awareness is almost gone, you would say, because once there is knowing awareness, you would say it covers naked awareness because everything is labeled. In other words, you can't get away from the fact that when you look around, everything is labeled. It's the knowledge base. I think Advaita Vedanta has it best. Pure consciousness illuminates the knowledge base and projects experience out there. But for purposes of guiding and stuff, just knowing awareness is a good starting point. So what you have is knowing awareness. What the recognition is that you are not your thoughts. This talking head, this narrator of experience, that is not your identity. That identity, the thoughts know nothing. They have no power. They can't do anything. When you step back and see thoughts as object, and the thoughts about the character, whatever the thoughts about the character are. The character is another object in consciousness. It's just the knowing of the character that stops the suffering. And this is basic duality still. But I've always said you don't need non-duality to stop suffering. If you recognize that you are not your thoughts and you are not the content of your thoughts, that's the basis of the dropping away of suffering. So knowing awareness is always the place or the space in which thoughts appear. And when I say knowing awareness, there's another distinction to be made. When I learned that this is a remote, that was a thought in consciousness. But once it gets incorporated into like the knowledge base or the hard drive, that becomes part of the knowing. The knowing, I know this room. I know I don't name everything in the room. If I pick up the remote, that's a thought that's like in active memory, like a thought in consciousness. The knowing is the quiet knowing background of awareness in which active thoughts arise, and your identity is frequently in the active thoughts that arise. I am this, I am doing that, I'm this, I'm a good this, I'm a good mother, I'm a good father, I'm a good, well, that person is pissing me off, blah, 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 blah. Once you recognize that you have identified as the character, the talking head, that is not what you are, that's when suffering can be released, because you see that thoughts really are no longer you, and it eases the ability, it stops the ability of thoughts to really upset you in any way, to restore the physiological balance back to normal, because you don't believe all that shit. That's when the self-critical thought comes up, you say, well, who is that talking? I mean, it's like, that sounds like my mother or my preacher or some jilted romance from the past telling me I'm a shitty person or something. That's not me. So knowing awareness is kind of a stopping point in a sense. It's not an identity. It's just knowing that you are not all those thoughts. And when that seeing happens, that's when all these people, when they're talking about a calmness sets in, that's when the calmness sets in, because you stop reacting to all that crap. Does that answer your question?
Well, it definitely clarifies. And so I think then maybe I have an expectation that is incorrect. And it right now I feel as though I can see, I think exactly what you said, that there are thoughts, they appear, they're known, but they're not at its core me. And there's the labels on everything I see or feel or interact with. I don't have the ability to sort of turn off those labels, but it can be seen that they're separate from just the neutral appearances, I guess. You know, there's visual, seeing, sounds, tactile sensations, and then separately there are also labels, and those can be separated. But seeing all that, there's still a collection of thoughts that believe they are in control and believe they are a me.
Okay, stop there.
Okay.
A collection of thoughts that believe something. You see, here's the problem. And here's where you have to take a thought, whatever thought you want, the I am Casimir, and objectify it, put it up on a blackboard, because a thought can't believe anything. A thought doesn't know anything. A thought doesn't think.
Yeah.
Thought it doesn't think. If you put that thought, I am Casimir, up on the blackboard and look at it, does that thought in and of itself know anything? And I'm not asking, is there a knowing of the thought? Because that's what we're trying to split off. The knowing and the thought are not the same thing. The thought is dead energy. Does the thought think? Does it know anything? Does it know anything about the history of Casimir? Does it know anything about the future of Casimir? Does the thought, I am Casimir, have any power to do anything? No. Does it? It has nothing. It's just an energetic movement. The knowing, and it's just one isolated thought. Put any thought up on the blackboard and ask the same questions. Do they know anything? Does the thought believe anything? You got to get it straight and look closely at the thought in and of itself. Does it actually have any qualities of agency, or is it just a pattern of energy? The knowing is what if there is an identity, and there isn't, but if you want to have an identity for the time being, it's just simply the knowing. And the knowing is independent of the thought. That's where you got to split them apart. That's the key to it, because surprising number of people think thoughts think, and that thoughts believe things, and that thoughts know things about themselves, and it's just not true. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's really helpful. I mean, I'm gonna have to sit with it and explore it a lot more, but I think that's maybe a framing that'll help me
Well,
see.
stop
separate
sitting
how-
and stop sitting for a second and exploring. Do you, the thought, I am Casimir, can you visualize it up on the board?
It's hard to grab hold of any thought because it quickly disappears.
Can you write
but
I am Casimir up on an imaginary chalkboard?
yes.
All right. Do you know of it?
Yes.
All right. You got it. You can see that there's the knowing, and then there's the thought, which is an object.
Right. The thoughts aren't doing anything. They're not doers
Right.
or
Nope. Don't know anything. Don't know anything about you. Never did. Never will. They know nothing.
not even sentient. They're just
No.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And put any one thought up there you want and ask the same questions. And it'll gradually, things will gradually separate out.
Okay. Somehow it never occurred to question that part of thoughts. That's
Well, it's not something that comes up at a cocktail party.
Well, I would bring it up at a cocktail party.
I know you would and I would, but that's just us.
Yeah.
Paul, can I have a question?
Okay.
When you are talking about this knowing awareness, I heard the term meta-awareness, so that you are aware of the fact that you are aware.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So it is possibly the same thing.
Probably. Yes.
But that differentiates into two kind of levels of awareness. Let me just label it that way. Is there a meta awareness that you are aware that you are aware that you are aware? You see where I'm going? There is no end to stepping back from where you kind of are with all that.
I would agree,
This
and
is
I would say that
this is where I am.
there's no such thing as true non-duality within the framework of human existence. Because
Yep.
if you acknowledge that if there is experience, if whatever is happening, if you say experience is happening, and that is a belief in and of itself,
Yep.
but you cannot also deny that there is a sense of aliveness in it, that there you can say experience knows of itself, or life is lifing. It's almost, I cannot conceive of how you could not have duality in any form. You can say non-duality with two aspects, like yin and yang, but and that's why I've always said non-duality is kind of a confusing term, kind of like enlightenment. If you really understand fundamental duality, you can relieve suffering without having to go there into all this complicated theory. You know, knowing awareness, if you can rest, like Jackson Peterson says, if you can rest as knowing awareness and know that you are not the content of your thoughts, a lot of suffering drops away. And that's actually what we're after, is getting rid of suffering, not this theoretical am I this, am I that, am I not this, am I not that? The goal of all this is to relieve suffering.
Yeah.
So yes, meta-awareness, could awareness be awareness of awareness? I don't know. As a practical matter, I don't know that I've ever dwelled on it that much to answer that question. It's probably beyond me.
Yeah,
Rupert,
there's just no end to it.
Yeah,
Rupert,
and you would have to ask yourself, how would it relieve any suffering to have the answer to that question is what I would ask.
Yeah.
How would it help me, or how would it help you?
Why would it help? Why? Where's the need for helping?
Right. Well, questions are really the basis of suffering when you really look.
Yeah.
Seeking.
Yeah.
I want to come back to Casimir. So when you said that there were certain thoughts that, how can I put it, still had juice for you, one of the things that happens when we start working with the fetters is we recognize when we have been triggered into an emotional state, right? And it's obvious that we get triggered because we believe some thought, something.
Yeah.
And frequently that is the result of something that we're no longer aware of, right? It's something from our past, or it's something from a pre-verbal state or whatever, but it's ingrained. It may even be cellular, that we respond to that in a way by getting into this emotional state.
Yeah.
But a shortcut is, it's always because we are responding to thoughts as if they are actual. It's always stories. So a good shortcut is to say, no thought, absolutely no thought is worth spending any time with, except those useful ones that say, don't walk in front of the bus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. So, in some sense, getting emotionally triggered may serve as a useful flag or sort of signpost of there's an unrecognized thought being identified with that is getting
Absolutely.
defensive.
Yep. And you don't need to know what that thought is, and you don't need to find the origin of it. All you need to know is that there's one there. And as a result of that, you can let it go.
Okay, that simplifies things a lot then. Because one can spend a lot of time trying to dig in to find the root
Yes.
or
And
layers of.
that's just the nature of the mind. The mind will say, come with me down this rabbit hole and I'll promise you satisfaction. Okay. And it's bullshit. It never delivers. Never, ever do you get satisfaction.
But we keep believing it for some reason.
For a moment.
Oh, it's very seductive.
I've been thinking of it. I'm sorry to say, expectation. I've been looking at expectation and seeing it's not just expecting the meal, or the life, it's the expectation itself. Well, I mean, I expect the room to look the way it does. Everything that seems to be going on in my mind is expectation. My brain, my thought.
Yeah, someone said that our brains are predictive machines, that
Yes.
they are constantly creating an inner space there, expectations, predictions, and they are adjusting to whatever happens. They are incorporating it into these patterns that are showing up in here.
Yes.
So that, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. Seeing that is really healthy?
Yes. Well, and it's everything. It's like the whole thinking thing is expectation.
So what's left, David, if you realize that there are it's all about thoughts.
Yes.
When you debunk that, what's left?
So I can see. The experience of awareness. I know you don't like that word. The aliveness, the presence, witness.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. So that is what can observe that thought is going on. And when that awareness is aware that thought is going on, thought is no longer has no part in it. It's
Right.
just like.
So would you say, is the thought any different to the tree that you become aware of, or any
Right,
different?
exactly.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
just what Paul was saying. It's just another object in thought, another object in awareness. Yeah.
So so I can I want to say think about that. I can bring that to awareness. I would call that meditation. How is that what's there all the time for you? Are you always aware that you're aware?
No, never.
No, okay.
Yeah. Look, I want to have a little rant about this one too. One of the things that somebody was saying earlier got me going on this, and the thought is this. No, I lost it. Phew.
Mhm.
As quick
I
as
know that one.
yeah, I got it back again. Okay. When we believe that shimmer on the road down there on a hot summer day is water, we're deluded. We are in a delusion. We get to it and we discover that it's not water. It's just the way that the road and the sunlight interact, and we've got this shimmer. Right. So the next time we drive down there, we're not deluded anymore. We know that even though it looks like water, we know that when we get there, it's not going to be water. Right. So now it's not a delusion anymore. It's an illusion.
Yes.
Right. Now
Yes.
we are not going to lose the illusion of a self. We've got a lifetime of conditioning to produce it. The difference is it's no longer a delusion. It's now just an illusion.
There it is.
And we can compensate for that illusion.
Yep, I understand the difference.
We don't need to slow down when we get to the shimmer.
Yep. So it seems to me that the best thing that I can do is just keep telling myself to shut up.
Until you do shut up and you don't need to tell yourself anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you don't even need to tell yourself to shut up, because that's hooking into the delusion that you've got control.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's right. Yeah. Right.
Bill.
Uh-oh. Yes. Well, I think I'm struggling with identity as far as health. Seeing myself as a healthy person. My whole schedule is around that, and I'm trying to change the way I do things and get into the flow. When I feel like doing it, and do it instead of, a rigid schedule. And I just started that, so hopefully it's working, and I'm not identifying. What advice do you have?
I don't have any advice. I can tell you some of my experience about that, about my seeming inability to lose about 5 kilos of excess weight.
Just cut your leg off.
Oh,
Yeah, that would fix it straight away, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Cut my head off, that would be more
Yeah,
effective.
yeah, the head would be better. There's more weight there.
Yeah.
It brings us back into the knowing thing and into belief, and it seems very right that we believe that it's good to have a healthy body. It's good for how long we'll live. It's good for how active we can be. It's good for all of those things. And I wouldn't deny any of that. It's the thing is how we go about it. And it sounds to me like what you said was that you're no longer forcing yourself into anything rigid about that, but you are still aware that being healthy is a good way to be. Now, it's all story, but it's a good story.
Yeah, I had arthritis pretty bad, and I thought I had a good diet, and then I switched to whole food plant-based, and I feel so much better. So I don't want to go off of that, but I find I'm just so rigid, and it just concentrating on that instead of the actual experience. So I need to get away from that.
Yeah. What being relaxed comes to mind as a appropriate way to have better health, right? If you're going to get stressed out about your diet, you've got two things fighting each other, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you occasionally stray from your diet, I wouldn't see that as a negative in particular, but you'll be very aware when you go and have a big steak or something like that. Even though you might enjoy it, you'll be aware that this is not what your arthritis wants.
Okay. My problem is not the diet. It's the schedule. I get up at a certain time every morning. I get out and go for a walk. Like I can't jog anymore, but I go out and go for a walk, and then or every other morning I do aerobics and getting to 4,000 steps, and it's just so structured. It's like I don't want that to be me.
Can you imagine doing those things without the compulsion, without the rigidity of a time schedule and all that stuff?
That's what I'm trying to do. I was watching Pinello talk about the flow, and I said, wow, that sounds good. Just do what you want to do when you want to do it, and you don't have to, And I said, wow, that's not me. I'm going to try that. So.
Yeah. Okay, it's a bit of an oxymoron though. Trying to do these things,
right,
can be counterproductive. But knowing that that's a possibility, that's a good thing. Yeah.
let me add something to that too, Bill. Diet, if we think we can actually control this, rather than just like there is, okay, I'm going to stop eating that, I'm going to eating that, I'm going to schedule myself, and you feel like you're in control somehow with this rigid schedule. So there's two ways. You can muscle your way off that rigid schedule, trying to do the opposite, which is an option, because then you're going to feel the information in your body when you do that you get to sit with. The other option is that you're not in control, and this what seems to be compulsive rigidity, watch yourself do it and get the information from that. And then so you can play with it while you're watching it and get that information in your body to sit with, because that's the core that's driving it all. And instead of thinking that you can control something.
So, Bill, I would give you an exercise to do. I will give you an exercise to do. And that is, every time you recognize that you're being controlling with any of this stuff, that you laugh out loud. If you're by yourself, a big guffaw, right? If you're in company, even just smiling to yourself. But that what you're doing right now changes the physiology in the body. You will feel different when you have a laugh or when you smile. But what you're doing is you're celebrating the recognition that something is going on, right? And that recognition is what will change the behavior, right? It doesn't take willpower. You can't do it with willpower, because what you resist, will persist. What you push against will get stronger. So what you're going to do is you're going to be more subtle with this and more skillful, and recognize when you're doing something that is counterproductive to your health and your well-being. Do that for 2 weeks, and I'll guarantee you it will change things for you.
Thank you.
So
And
we're
And
moving.
also,
anything can be, and you can identify with any particular thing. Like, I eat this way, and now I'm identified as, okay, on this I eat like Mediterranean, or on this I eat vegan, or on this I eat whole foods, plants. But it can become an identity if you lose touch with how it's feeling, information that's coming in your body each day when you eat. And to keep it aware and fluid, rather than start to lock into an identification that has to eat breakfast at this time and has to eat this type of food. Now, you may eat that type of food at that time of the day every day, but because staying aware of the body's subtleties rather than the identification with that's who you are.
Thanks, Jenny.
Bill, I think you should schedule into your agenda at 5 past the hour every day you laugh for 30 seconds.
Starting now.
I hope the irony comes through a little bit. Or maybe every 97 minutes you should put in your schedule spontaneity.
And beat yourself up with a whip if you forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bill, I don't.
And Bill, also remember that there is a the bad or the good are just labels. So if you think that your health problems are bad, that is just a label of the mind that put it there. Remember that there is a lot of knowledge, wisdom, whatever, awakening coming through suffering. There are people that are just choosing suffering. There is a whole culture of harming yourself to get enlightened. So you don't know if it's good or bad. It's just your thought that labeled it good or bad, whatever. That's just not, that it's not, it's just subjective. It is what your mind kind of agreed upon because of a belief that is there. It's just a belief. You don't know how it ends. You don't know how it is.
Well, I know I feel a lot better since I started this, and listening to my body.
Oh, that's bad. You need to turn this off.
On a more serious note, Bill, isn't it interesting? Because I think I do this as well, that whatever's right or wrong, good or bad, you've said you've put into your life a structure, whether it's diet, whether it's your schedule, that's making you feel better, yeah?
Yeah.
And you want to find a problem with that.
I just was wondering if I was identifying with that. If I'm,
Identify with things that make you feel better for a while.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you can come back to not identifying it but it's like, I think Vince said jokingly, beat yourself with a whip every time you're doing something good, just to make sure you don't enjoy it. It's hard because I know I beat myself up about things. Yeah. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Am I doing this wrong? Am I doing that wrong? And I think, like you said, in your body, you're feeling better. Thumbs up from me.
Thanks.
See, there is a presumption. It's all stories. There's everything's stories. And there's a story that you're feeling better because of what you're eating. But it may well be that you're feeling better because how you feel about what you're eating. You feel good that you're doing something. And that may be where the health improvement has come from rather than from the actual diet. I don't know. I mean, I may be totally off here, but to think that we know is where we start going wrong. We start believing thoughts again.
Good.
Or you may be believing that you are getting a control over your life because you can control your diet and you are succeeding with it. And this is enough for you to get better. So that is something to unpack, because there is a lot in that, what I said. I will leave you with that. I'm not going to do this for you.
And I have to say, Bill, you're a little bit of an inspiration for me, because I have quite bad arthritis in this hand that is pretty constant. And maybe I'll try a plant-based diet for a while and see what happens.
You won't
But
be
Vince,
sorry.
Vince, there is it depends on the person from the medicine point of view. You know Jordan Peterson and his daughter's story?
I don't know.
They are you don't know the story. They have some sort of autoimmune arthritis, I think, and they are actually going the other way. So they are eating beef exclusively. Beef and salt. Beef and salt only, and water. And they are getting much better. They are exclusively on beef, on steaks and etc. So try to figure out what that means.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How are you going, Kathleen?
Oh, am I muted or not?
No, you're not. I can hear you.
I'm not. Okay. I'm enjoying the heck out of this conversation. I really am. I'm doing fine. I'm very content, and it's interesting because the who am I thing, the retreat I went on a few weeks ago, that was my big focus. And I came up with, who's asking, who cares, and so what? So that's kind of like where I am,
good.
it's like, really, who cares? All this awake or not awake, or
Yeah.
it's all silly. It's so silly, and I
You're going to put us all out of a
anyway.
job here. Who cares?
I went to a friend of mine turned 70 yesterday, or we went to a 70th birthday party. My classmates that were all turning 70 this year. And I was at the party, and it's Mardi Gras time, so we all had costumes, and we had old music playing. And I closed my eyes, and I don't even know who I was or where I was, but it was just brilliant. I was having such a wonderful time. And one of my friends said, Kathleen, you like someplace else. And I was like, felt so good, so I'm in a good place. I don't have to pretend to be anything. Yeah, so maybe I don't know where this is, but this is a good place for me. So that's all
Love it.
that's all I can
It's a
say.
very important
But
question. Who cares? Who is
cares?
it that care? Who
I
is
mean,
it
I
that
think
cares?
that's
Investigate
the most
that.
important. That's the most important question, because you're like,
Yeah,
who
it
am I? Who
is.
am I? And then finally it's like, who's asking really? And who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
So
That-
anyway, so that's today's the 15th. So that's how I am today. How I'll be tomorrow, we'll see.
That's
Because
right.
is there a tomorrow?
Yeah. And there isn't
But
at the moment.
right now I'm good, and I absolutely love these meetings because it helps ground me. So thank you.
Thank you. That was great. So you're taking all this in, Yvonne? How's things for you?
Oh, yeah, I love being here with you all. It's wonderful. I mean, I'm going through some classic sort of situation where I'm as I said before, with my family. I'm with my son, and I'm with my daughter-in-law, and mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Wow, there's so much goes on there, and son. And they're trying, I find they're in my story, and I'm in their story. And then suddenly the story gets to feel quite not comfortable. And then I let the story go, and there's nothing there. And but then I'm brought back to the story. So it's just quite interesting. It's a very interesting time. I don't know how else to put it, but it's quite good when I'm stuck in a story, and then I let it go, and it's gone.
Right.
But it's there waiting for me if I want it again. I don't know how else to explain it, and I think I have a problem with that. I don't feel I'm able to find a way to explain what's going on there. What to say? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. There's a story, and then it's gone, and then there's no story, and it's such a relief. There's nothing there. Whew. But the story could be quite serious. Anyway, but there we are.
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah. You have a good relationship with your mind by the sound of it, and it will get better and better.
Because it's not comfortable. And there's so much serious stuff going on, and it's old stuff, and it really is a suffering stuff. And then I'm getting into suffering, really big time suffering, and then I realize it's just a thought, and there's nothing there. But there's still, I've got to be practical about my life, but everybody seems to know how to fix things for me, but it's all irrelevant. It's difficult to explain. I don't know. Anyway, thank you. It was nice that it helped. And thank you for asking. Such a wonderful gathering. I love it. I wish I could just get to find the time, not to find the time, but to get the time right to join you all. I think on Friday, or is it Saturday? I don't know. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at working this out. I think it's possibly, in England, I think it's possibly Saturday.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, Yvonne. 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. I can get that together
Have it
now.
in my schedule. I get up especially early on Saturdays for Vince's late night.
Yeah, late night. Yes. Thank you, Vince. You must be, I don't know how you managed to get up so early in the morning on Monday. Yeah.
I'll have a nana nap during the day.
Oh, yes. It's always welcome.
Mm.
Thank you for putting this all together. I love it.
Well, thank you, all you guys. You all do it beautifully. Thank you. I mean, I feel so great when I come to these things. Just love it. Yeah. How are you going, Andre?
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping you would not, mention my name, because
You're
I'm
allowed
being,
not to, you're allowed not to, but I know you want to.
yeah. I just want to, sort of stay curled up under the stone and not be seen and stuff. And also, I noticed that I'm listening to, like, I'm looking at everyone and listening to what you're saying, and I'm hoping that someone will ask the question that I need asked, so I don't have to do the work.
Yeah.
And then and what you're talking about here is to some part of me, it almost sounds like, brains sort of like rocket science or something, and I just wanted to ask you, like, I have this body, right? And then if I have a headache, do I have to let it blossom fully and sort of suffer with it, and because I suffer with other things, right? So I might as well suffer with the headache if I have a headache, which I do. And should I just, experience it fully? The notion of pain in my body and how I feel it, and it's not a life and death question. That's why I can sort of endure it. Or should I just take a painkiller? And if I take a painkiller, it stops the pain. It takes away the opportunity of having a nice contact with this, thing called pain. And the only problem with pain is because it doesn't feel good. I mean, if it had more sort of, feeling good to it factor, then I'd probably be happier. Like, I would enjoy it, because I mean, I certainly enjoy orgasm more than I enjoy, headache. But they're all the same in a way, right?
Yes.
No?
Andrew, you can just as well enjoy and be aware of the pain disappearing slowly when you take the medication.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, I
That's
noticed
just
that.
an object.
And that's what happens with my wife. She's like, have a, why do you suffer? Take a pill. I'm like, no, I have to live. I have to, and this is my experience. I have to,
No,
like,
you
I
don't.
have to be with
Okay,
it.
so
Ew.
there's a it can be more subtle than that. There's layers and layers, you know. Yeah, I get the same thing from my wife all the time. She's saying, take a Panadol, have a painkiller. And because of my arthritis, you know, because that's got basically, I could, at one level, I can say there's a constant pain. I'm never without pain there. But it's not painful pain. It gets really tricky to kind of talk about this, to describe it. But so I will take a painkiller if my pain reaches a certain level, but it rarely gets to that level. So when it's not consuming me, that pain, it's more interesting because it's like my tinnitus. If I'm not aware of it, if I don't think about it, it's not there. It's only there when I think about it. Or if I suddenly twist my hand in a particular way, I'll get an intense, an acute pain, and then I become aware of it again. But otherwise, it's that pain is only there when I think about it. So there are levels, you know. Same with I don't very often get a headache, but if I get a headache, oftentimes I won't bother with a painkiller because it's not so intense that it consumes me. But if it got to that level, I would take a painkiller.
Mm.
So it's that approaching it, you know, like that how bad is it, and what is it, and where is it? So you don't got to do anything. But if particularly if it, as it starts and it's not so big that it wants to take over, you can play with it. You can investigate it and see what happens with it. And there's
Then,
no
like,
yeah, go on.
Andre,
No, I
what
was just
the next another level that comes to me is you're asking yourself the question, should I suffer with this? My question is, why is that question arising? What would you possibly get by suffering? That's the question I want to know.
Because because for me, I see this as a, maybe I'm bullshitting, but I see this as a portal. I see this as a message, or as a sign, as a signage, or if I can just ignore it, and when
Well,
I
who
take a
told you
painkiller,
suffering was a portal to anything?
it's
Who
not
told you that?
suffering in general. You did.
Who told you
no,
that
it's not.
suffering is a portal?
No, I see the well, because usually the things that in my life that I ignore or choose not to look at are usually most of the time they're the one that have this sense of discomfort, and I think that if I look at them, I'll see through them, and if I see through them, you know, I expand.
What does that mean, you expand?
It means oh God, it means I wasn't preparing for this, but it means that more
I know.
fences are dropping and I become freer. Like, I don't have to suffer because I've seen through this, and this suffering is no longer required. I've seen through this pain is no longer required. I've
But why
read this
is
message is no longer required.
but you still have the belief, whether you're seeing suffering in others or suffering in yourself, that suffering is going to get you something. And that's what I'm questioning. I mean, suffering exists, sure, but do you feel like maybe you're holding on to it
Oh yeah,
unnecessarily?
well, that's for sure. That's one of the things that this group has highlighted, is that suffering is my, flag and banner, but
Well, the flag bearer gets shot first in battle.
well, but it's just piece of fabric. The bearer is still alive,
No.
Yeah, you're right. yeah, it's a big target. Yeah, but
Don't be the flag bearer.
no, but it's just like
Let me add something for you, Andre.
What would you
Because-
be without your suffering is the question.
I'll find something else, I suppose.
Okay. What would that be?
Remains to be seen. I don't like well, the suffering, because Buddha has seen through suffering, right? And I'm like, if I see through suffering, I'll be, worthy. I don't know. It's just
Actually, the
no,
Buddha didn't
worthiness.
see through suffering.
Is worthiness the reward? Is suffering necessary to be worthy? I mean, forget Buddha. Just, why can you honestly say Buddha was holding on to suffering, or he was just enduring it? It's a big distinction.
Okay, there's something else coming up to your question, and it is like some people are not meant to suffer, and some people are meant to suffer. So I'm in the camp which is meant to suffer.
Who told you that?
The flag. I don't know. I don't have an author.
It's pretty important to
Sounds
not
like
know.
a family thing. Sounds
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
I think
dad
it-
thing.
I'm just questioning where you got the belief. That's all I'm doing here is where you got the belief that you should. Who told you that?
Or who showed
Some
you?
preacher? Preacher?
No, I didn't go to church much.
Teacher?
Was it when you were a boy? I see you as a boy. I see something happened when you were a boy.
Well,
I see a boy.
definitely.
You look so like a boy. You're still in the boy. I mean,
No,
not that you're not a man.
Who told
Does
you?
it matter where the belief came from?
No.
Well, yes, because you should question, did the person have motives of their own? Were they
Oh, yeah.
actually looking out after his best interest? I would say they're not. Somebody tells you
No.
you have to suffer. That sounds like
Yeah.
somebody's fixing to hand the collection plate around.
So
that's why I'm asking,
You know
who told you you had to suffer, and did they have an agenda of their own? Were they looking out after your best interest? You should ask yourself.
maybe it was a family thing. Maybe you just saw your mother doing it and you adopted it. Who knows?
Same
But
thing.
my question all through all of this discussion is, where is identification? That's the real issue here.
Yeah.
There's a way to explore the illusion of pain and the resistance to it that labels it as uncomfortable rather than pleasurable. So there is something to explore it. But if you're going in with suffering, that's an overlay. So if you're carrying around that I have to suffer to explore my pain, this illusion of pain and my resistance to pain, and that the label I've put on it as just uncomfortable, right? You can go in there without suffering. So if suffering is laid on top of it, you can explore that as well. And then if the inquiry starts to overwhelm, take a pill. It's there's no wrong thing to do. But if you're exploring this resistance and this illusion of pain, and it's fun for you to do that, and you're curious, and you notice suffering happening, you get to explore that as well. So there's no wrong choice to make. And if you don't suffer there, you're going to suffer somewhere else. So it's a great tool as anything else to explore
I'm
all
not
that.
being critical here by any means. It's not a question of moral good or wrong or anything else. I'm asking, who is the identity of the voice that is saying you should suffer, or who is the voice that is torturing you and causing you to suffer? Is it really your voice, or was it someone else? And was that voice looking after your best interest? It is an identity problem at its fundamental layer. And the question is, who is telling you to suffer? who is the voice in the head that says you should suffer, or that you're no good, or you should do this, or you should do that? Whose voice is that? So it is a question of identity. It's within the purview of this group. It's just you have to look and see whose voice is it.
And the first thing that comes to mind is likely to be the answer.
Probably.
Well, even if I know the answer to that, and I know most likely it's my mother, or most likely it's a collective story where my mother is part of, then I still like, so what? Like, I know it, I am identified with whatever whatever beliefs I still have, and it doesn't really, like, who was that? Jeremy. Um, I I know the author, and I've known the author, but like,
Doesn't change things, eh?
no. And you said the best, my best interests, and arguably she's well, that person is my mother, and then she does what, she does the best she can do
Yeah, of
based
course.
on her storyline and based on her
Yes.
life, and maybe in
Yes.
her life and in her perspective, suffering is the way to survive, and she's like, okay, this is the best I can do for you, this is the tool, use it. And I'm like, yeah, no painkillers for me.
Have you got kids, Andre?
No, not yet.
Okay. Just as well, you'd be passing it on to them, would you?
Yeah.
Well,
I
very likely, yes.
Yeah.
If I don't see through this, yes.
Yeah. You'll see through it. But that question of identity is the big thing. So here we have a situation where you've adopted an identity from your environment, from your parents or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the question becomes, is it mandatory? Do you have to have that identity? Or can you have your own identity on the way to having no identity?
I can hear these questions, but these questions don't seem to even transmit even minor movement to the wall of belief or whatever. So they're like, this whole thing is like, it's like inquiry proof or whatever. It's like, it's solid. And if you say, now I hear the question, it makes sense totally, and I would, I can give you the answer, but the thing will remain intact. Like,
Andre, what does suffering, let's say you're supposed to suffer. Let's go ahead and go with that belief. What does suffering get you? Like, if you suffer, what will happen?
No rational answer appears, and no rational, no.
What happens if you don't suffer? What'll happen? Let's say,
Oh,
okay,
you get killed, I guess, pretty much.
if you
I
don't
get
suffer,
killed.
you get killed.
If I don't suffer, I get killed. I get attention. I get my things taken away. So it sounds like an echo of the history of the country I was born in. Where people's belongings were taken away, families were broken into.
That's so good. So go back with it. If I don't suffer, someone's going to hurt me. Feel that. Something bad's going to happen if I don't suffer, and feel that. Where are you feeling it?
It's like the chest and the stomach, but also the headache is intensifying, and
Yeah, so breathe into that headache. If I don't suffer, something bad's going to happen. Is there emotion label that goes with it?
they're all like muffled. They're all muffled. It's almost like it's a layer of protection of
protection. What does that feel like?
Yeah.
That layer of protection.
It is not it's very hard for me to be clear in this, like, because this all feels
Okay,
like
right. So it's not clear. What does it feel like? Chaos?
it doesn't feel like chaos. It feels like there's a layer of protection which is like semi-transparent, and it's like gooey kind of shield thing, and underneath that is like happiness and people dancing and stuff, and then on top of that they build this.
Are you imagining it, or are you describing it?
I don't know. I
Okay,
don't know
so
the difference.
Go back. If I'm not suffering, you only know what's happening right now in this moment. You'll know if you're imagining something because you're not actually describing an experience. The direct experience. If I don't suffer, something bad's going to happen. Now go back in and feel that.
Well, but then there's like nothing. When you ask that question and you ask me to do this, I'm like, there's almost like, I feel like I'm not telling you anything. Like I'm not spilling any, like.
That's fine. That is what's happening. So what's happening is what you were describing as a layer of protection, like a muffled layer of protection. So that's what you be with, because that's what's happening. You're trying to get past that right now. What's happening is the layer of protection. So be with that. If I don't suffer, something bad will happen. If you feel muted, if you feel protection, if you feel Teflon, that's what's happening. If I don't suffer, something bad will happen.
I almost feel like if I befriend you now, if I open up to your questions, I'm going to betray like a group of people who will like
Hurt you.
will die as a result of this. Or
Oh,
suffer.
okay, good. So if I open up to you and I betray these people, now feel what that feels like. They're going to die because I betrayed them and befriended you. Because feel that. You're going to be responsible for millions of people being hurt if you drop suffering.
I cannot open up to this. I almost
Don't open
started.
up to it.
and
Don't
then
open up to it. No, you're trying to open up to it. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to describe the direct experience of what's happening now. Don't try to open up. So what's happening now is the trying to open up. Be with the trying to open up. That's what's happening. Be with that.
Well, because I want to be with you, and I want to be with the.
Go back with what's actually happening, not what you want. So what's actually happening is you're wanting to be with me. You're wanting to open up. But if you do, you're going to be responsible for hundreds of people suffering. So you have to be suffering so that doesn't happen. Be with what's actually happening, not where you want to be.
Well, it's just what's actually happening, and there's nothing happening in my body, and it's just a headache, and then it's your voice, and then it's some tears, but probably from
That's
a few
good.
minutes earlier.
That's
Not late.
Don't analyze it. That's what's happening. You feel nothing in your body. Does that nothing in your body feel like numbness? Does it feel like emptiness? What does that feel like? Describe that nothing in your body.
Just like a void. It's just black, and it's cold, and it's empty, and there's nothing in it. It doesn't, no emotion, nothing. It's just black
Empty,
space.
cold,
Empty.
black. Okay, be with that. That's what's happening. If I stop suffering, millions of people will suffer.
What you just said kind of revealed the tension that I have in my face muscles, like, and there's some sort of jerking and also I felt like something like something started pouring away from me and into, you know, other people, and I started to become smaller because I don't need to hold it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Be with that.
And it's just me. I want to say I feel lonely, but I don't really feel lonely. It's just it's a fact. I'm alone, but it's not. There's no emotion.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in here. Somebody very recently who felt like they were experiencing, how can I put it, collective suffering, a bit like you, right? The sadness, the shittiness in the world was part of them. And it feels a bit to me like you have taken on the suffering of a whole country, in a way, and not just a country, but a whole culture of that's extended way beyond your immediate family. It's that. And another thing that came to mind was something that I frequently describe the self as a body of armor. And this is exactly what this is for you. This is this is armor. This is a way for you to not get close to the real pain that's there. This suffering you can cope with, but underneath that is something much more intense that you're a bit afraid to get in contact with, because this is my story, of course, that because it'll be overwhelming. If you just let it out, if you just let it go, you're just going to be a mess on the floor, kind of thing. That's what it feels like, I imagine. Yeah.
So for now, Andre, remember what it felt like when you're just there. It's just you, alone, but not lonely. And all that energy went back out to wherever it went. And remember, and be with that. And the next level will show itself. The next level will show itself. You're going to ride with it as it reveals itself. You don't have to make it happen.
Like there's, yeah.
Energetically, what you just did was really beautiful. I could feel it. And it was a really lovely step. So you don't have to do it all in one big bite. So remember that, be with it, that you're just there. It's just you. You're alone, but not lonely. Remember? And remember what it felt like for that energy to go out, back out.
Yeah, it's all like a lot of threads, like, you know, sort of threads going back to
Yeah, because if it goes back out to them, if you let it release back out to the people it belongs to, then that thought that I'm responsible for them and now they're going to suffer, that's going to try to grab you again. Right? So just allowing yourself to be where you're at right now, where you are you know, that energy, energetic of you, you know, we won't get into the somatics of that. And all that energy is going back out to the people it belongs to for their own responsibility. And when that thought that I'm responsible, and if I don't suffer and I give them back all their suffering, if I don't hold it onto me, they're going to suffer. See, that thought wants to come back.
Yeah. But
So watch that, watch it, and then be with how it makes you feel again. And you're just going to keep repeating.
yeah, one thing is that I see when that happens, there's a boy. It's not there's not an adult person. It's a boy who is trying to whatever.
Right. The boy's trying to grab it all back, right?
Yeah, it's not trying to it's slowly, not all of it, but some of it went away, but like a great deal of it still remained. And I just see it's not a strong big person. It's just a
little
child.
boy who can't, that child can't carry that burden, and it's been trying to. So every time that child starts to think, oh, wait, I can't really let this go. I need to do that. This is where that trauma got locked, is in that child resonance. So that child's going to keep thinking it. And when it does, you're going to watch, okay, where's that feeling? I have to feel shame. I have to carry their shame. If I don't, I mean, they're suffering. If I don't, they're going to be hurt. I have to carry it. And that child's desperate because that's where it got locked in that age, in that child. So you don't need to know where it came from or anything. All you know is that's where it's locked in. So when the thought starts to come up again, you're going to keep repeating it every time that child brings it in, and sit with it just like we just did. And it's going to keep coming back until it's complete. You don't have to do it in one sitting.
And something you said earlier is if it all goes away, the image that I got was you'd be like a blow up person that's deflated and you'll just be a skin on the floor. There won't be any substance left. And that's yourself gone. And that'll be a good thing, not something to be afraid of. Because yourself is so tied up with this that's where your identity is. Drop the identity and there's nothing left. Just a blow up doll with no air in it.
Yeah, so that's really a good point. So you're going to feel that against the backdrop of this little boy feeling like he has to take care of all this with his suffering. And then when he lets it go and he feels empty again and deflated, just be with that and relax. And then watch it try to inflate again and watch the thought come back. And you can just go back and forth and get comfortable with that process as it deflates. It's like somebody who's 500 pounds losing 300 pounds overnight. It's going to be uncomfortable and unfamiliar. And then you go back and watch it again.
It's a little bit irrelevant in a way. It's just a story, but it's something, yeah. As a child in the environment that you were in, the naivety of a child meant that you didn't have the skills to put this in a proper context, right? So you just absorb what's going on around you, right? And so here you are as an adult, and you're still experiencing what that child experienced. So, what we're doing now gives you the ability almost to go back and visit that child as an adult, and put it into a proper perspective for the child, that you're not responsible for what's going on around you.
No. To parent the child?
Sorry?
To parent the child, perhaps?
Who knows? Yes. Yeah.
I just, as a mother, I just see a little boy and my heart goes out. I just see the boy.
So the unconditional love doesn't pity, it has love and compassion. So for you to watch this little boy feeling like he has to take on the sorrow of the world and just watch it with compassion, but not pity.
Yeah. No, there's no pity.
Yeah, unconditional. The
I don't feel pity.
unconditional.
I feel compassion.
Yeah, and there's an unconditional witness that's so beautiful that this child gets to do this and be seen for it, and then be seen as deflated, and then be seen again for wanting to take it on again, and all the levels and nuances of that you as awareness, the unconditional gets to witness and be with. There's nothing to do but be with it.
And as an adult visiting that child again, you of course immediately appreciate that nobody was in control. Nobody did anything on purpose. It was just how things were. Whereas as a child, it feels totally different.
Yeah.
Andre, there's a question that Paul asked that seems to be at the root of this whole thing. The voice that says to you, you must suffer. To sit with that, and whatever comes up, just be with it. The love of truth here will see you through.
It's just one thing that Paul said. It keeps coming back. About the preconditioned awareness, the naked awareness. What was it? I don't remember the exact term. And I was like, I have this fantasy, if I can use this word, like if like it feels, if I could just drop it back into that, and then the rest of the stuff, which was sort of added on to me later as part of the conditioning, will dissolve, or will, like, chemically will not be able to stick to it because it doesn't, yeah, I don't know, like dissolve, and then I don't have to feel it. I don't have to, I don't have to deal with it. Like, I just go back to the, would you call it, the the basic state or whatever, and then it just it's like, yeah,
Andre,
reform
you're
it.
carrying this burden, yeah? You're carrying this, yeah? This is you, for want of a better word, yeah? How is this for an offer? Give it to me for a week. I will carry it for the whole week. I will bear the burden of these millions of people and keep them alive. Next Sunday, you can have it back and see how your week is. It's a genuine offer.
And the other thing too, Andre, is you are seeing it from that knowing, that naked knowing, but you're adding a layer of suffering on top of it. So how do you get rid of suffering with suffering? So when you're seeing from naked awareness, you're still going to see maybe an innocence who thinks it has to take on suffering to save a bunch of people from suffering. And then you'll feel the vibrations of suffering in the body and you'll experience the whole thing, but there won't be suffering laying on top of that while you're seeing it.
Yeah, it does. There's a bit of a, what was like a recursion is the, like, the just feel the suffering, but don't suffer feeling the suffering, and the, like, be awareness, watching awareness.
Yeah, and how do you do that? So hey, give James your
James.
burden for a day.
Till next Sunday. If you want to give it back to me, just just give it back to me.
Yeah, you wouldn't want James to suffer.
No,
He might
I
not
don't want James to
suffer
suffer.
correctly and save all those people.
Exactly. And James, yeah. I'll have to let's have a call and make sure you suffer properly. Yeah. At some point.
And Andre, one really, 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 really big thing is you do not need to do anything
No. No.
for the next week. No doing, just watch.
I just wanted to say I'll try, and then I'm like, that's also doing, right?
Also, next Sunday, you don't only get your suffering back, you can have all of mine as well.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. No. Well, James,
Bonus interest.
on the second thought.
I don't know. I wouldn't want all James's suffering. That'd be a bit much.
No, James, your suffering is like completely like different, next level. So no, I'm too not ready for this. This is like next level shit. I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
It's incalculable. You cannot know what effect this has just had on you without just simply watching for a while. And oh, we've lost and opinions are a trap. Opinions are judgments. So don't, every time you catch yourself having an opinion about what's going on, just flick it away.
Yeah.
Also, Andre, earlier, I think you said that you probably got this from your mother, yeah? And then somebody said, have you got children? And you said no, but you said if you don't see through this, you'd probably pass the same habits on to your children. Isn't that backwards? Because you're saying if you don't see through it, so like if it doesn't work, if this suffering doesn't work, you'd pass it on to your children. Shouldn't it be if you do see through it, it's, like your suffering has worked. Your suffering was the way that you reached your enlightenment, then pass it on. But why would you pass it on if it didn't work?
I'm not sure I'm following, James.
No.
Brilliant,
Okay,
James.
maybe I got it wrong earlier.
I think.
I was like, when you were saying this, I was
got
like,
it right.
should I get it back? Should I get my suffering back? Are you not gonna spoil it? By like
I've got to understand how to do it properly.
suffer.
On a serious note, this is a serious question, right? Or a serious statement. Teach me in the next 30 seconds how to suffer the way you do.
Just squeeze happiness out of your life and be with whatever is left. Never smile, never laugh, never feel joy, never brag, never tell people how good you are. Remove all and any positiveness from your life.
That
And
sounds a bit like James already to me.
yeah, and make sure you're poor, you don't have money, you don't have belongings. Make sure living in a bad house, you wear bad clothes. Yeah, and your body also needs to suffer like some sort of disease or maybe, but that's an extra.
Definitely headaches.
Okay.
You
Headaches,
forgot
yes.
bad hair.
Yeah.
Andrew, you
Bad hair.
forgot bad hair.
Yeah, bad hair, bad breath, yeah, short-sighted, long-sighted, doesn't matter.
And how is this working out for you?
I'm struggling with my suffering, so some of it I let in, some of it I'm like,
I think you're beautiful.
How many people have you saved, Andre?
Was that how many people I saved?
How many people have you
Oh.
saved?
Like, well, I think a few, but I
Okay,
don't
which
like,
one?
I don't have a track
Which-
record.
Which one? Who have you saved? Who's not
Mm.
suffering now because you took their suffering?
Oh, that. No, 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 I didn't save anyone. No, no. No, I just,
Andre,
no. Hey,
is it like, just sit quietly, don't put your head up, don't be seen, don't be heard, just merge into a gray mass.
yeah,
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 I'm
yeah.
coming from post-Soviet Union country as well.
Yeah, I was born in Soviet. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
Comrade, yes.
Yeah. Just
Oh,
everyone is equal, everyone level. Don't get up. Sit quietly.
yeah, but that's next step. The one before that was we will make you all equal first, and that's the suffering.
Yeah.
When they make
Oh.
you equal, when they give you gray suits to wear, and yeah, like North Korea, Soviet Union, or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, look, we have that in Australia as well. We call it the tall poppy syndrome. You stick your head up, we'll cut it off.
Mm.
Yeah.
In Jenny, I haven't saved anyone. No, that's bullshit. I haven't.
Not to weave another story, but these things, these suffering things, because I come from it sounds like my grandmother, but it's kind of centuries and centuries of it, and it's not ours.
Yeah.
And it's just not ours, but we've been given it by our parents or our grandparents, and it's a long belief. It's an old belief. I don't want to put stories on beliefs, but some beliefs seem like they're a bit more, they have more age than others. That makes sense.
Again, I'm
More
going to make
mass, or they're
gonna make
larger, they're just, yeah, but it's been great to listen, because I had some good insights from it. It's really good. Yeah. Thank you guys. But yeah.
I'm going to make up a story about this, that this has come down through the generations till it hit you. And you're here to break the chain.
Yeah. The buck stops here.
Yeah, that was because it was like if a generation cannot handle it because they're busy with other things, because it's overwhelming for them. It's not so overwhelming for me because I have a more comfortable life. So I'm probably able to look at it, at least see it, what they went through. And then, okay. And not pass it on to someone else.
Yeah.
Or pass it on if I fail to. That's just life, I guess.
That is total life, because even if you pass it on, that's a belief. You don't know that you passed it on, but I will watch how I learned from my parents and broke free from so many things, generational. And I'm watching how my kids are playing certain things out. And the more I think, oh, I've passed this on, drama, rather than, wow, look at the beauty of how they're using this on a whole different level than I did, and freeing it up even more. And now my little granddaughters will be doing the same thing. So there's no story about passing it on or not passing it on. It's just all happening. Maybe that's how humanity evolves. I don't know. So we just do our part, and the buck stops here wherever I can stop the buck, or seem to be able to.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing. Because I started to feel way too serious about it now. And too grandiose, I guess, too, narcissistic about, oh, it's me stopping the whole fucking,
You'll stop whatever stops with you. It'll be
Yeah.
5%, 2%, 99%. Who knows? Who cares? You're going to stop what stops with you. And then whatever doesn't stop with you will stop with your kids if you have them, and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter.
I can watch any number of historical kind of movies on Netflix, and almost every time I say to myself, boy, I'm glad I didn't live back in those times. But then I remember that I've spent large part of my life complaining about this time. Even
Do you watch science fiction movies as well and think the same thing about the future?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
they
'cause
haven't
there
learned
is-
anything.
There is no time in actuality. Everything we remember in our imaginations from the past lives right in this moment, the moment we think about it. And everything in the future in our imagination is living right now in our being, if we're thinking about it and attached to it. So there's no past or future. It's all right here, right now, in what's thinking and believing and happening in this body. That's all I can be with. So what's happening right now?
Also, Andre, there was a moment in the last 5 minutes where you laughed and smiled. Everybody's now dead because you said you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, you're right.
You're doing it again. Stop, don't do it. Don't enjoy yourself. Don't be happy because we're all in shit if you're not miserable. As you can tell from the last 2 hours we've been sitting here.
And that might bring something up in you, Andre. So pay attention in your body. Like he's joking, but that might bring something up in you.
Yeah, yeah, no, 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 yeah. Whatever that means, but yes. Thank you, Jane.
What happens when you are drunk? Are you still
Oh, I haven't
saving
been.
everybody? You haven't been.
No.
You
No,
don't
I
allow
do
yourself to be?
I do crazy shit. But no, I don't drink anymore because I don't like alcohol. But when I was drinking, it's just like, no, no, like an animal. I feel sorry for
That
people
sounds
who
bad.
have to deal with it. Yeah. Embarrassing stuff, Come on, we all do that. Well, not all, but I did.
Well, if you're going to suffer about what you did when you were drunk, it's just.
Oh. No. No.
Andre, thank you. Seriously, thank you.
I want to thank all of you.
Andre, is there any time that you allow yourself not to suffer?
Yes. There are moments
When
when I
is
feel this bliss or serenity or just love. I actually, oh no, wait. I've been playing with antidepressants for a few months and to see what effect it will have, and so I'll have to see. Now I've stopped taking it. I'll have to see what changes, but I do have moments of not suffering. But it's just like maybe, if you think of the iceberg, the tip is the happiness or not happiness, just like normal life, you just enjoy life, right? I think it's natural. And then the stuff which is submerged is, yeah.
Do you feel like you have to, like you are allowing yourself not to suffer, or does it just happen because something else is happening?
Just happens.
Just happens.
I have no idea what happens and how it just keeps, switching and changing, and I have no idea.
Well, the more you sit with this, Andre, like we did today, the more those spontaneous beings could be happening. Don't try to make them happen, but the more you see through this, the more that floats to the top. More than likely.
And do appreciate that when you how can I put it? When you celebrate that the tip of the iceberg that's above the water, when you clear that shit away, more stuff's going to come up. And it doesn't mean that you've gone backwards. It's still a forward movement, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and the counter of that will be more spontaneously free feeling moments. So go ahead and don't be afraid to dive in. to what we did today. Because the opposite, the deeper you go, the freer you get.
I think I remember you saying this one of the meetings, Jenny, is that like I think it was 2 meetings back when we were talking towards the end, we were talking about this utopia thing, people loving each other and hugging and all that transparency and like, and this world is within me. And I was yesterday we had a conversation with my friends and I was like, all these wars and all these conflicts and all these, the things that are like not so nice and how am I responsible for this? Like, because I was like, what should I do to, well, literally, like, can I stop war in Ukraine, or can I stop war in in Israel or Gaza or whatever? Or like, is it something in me? And it's probably too self-centered to think that, or sort of not eccentric, egocentric, but, or is it
You
like
can't-
really me?
No, you can't stop the war over there, but your internal war, your suffering, you can stop. You can be with it. You can't change the suffering over there. You can't change the wars over there. Well, there's things people do, but let's just talk practical. You can't stop that over there, the wars, the suffering, but where you stop it is, don't worry about what's on there. That's a projected image of your inner war, your war with yourself. Be with your own suffering, and you'd be shocked how your perception of external suffering will shift. I'm not saying it's going to go away, but your perception of it will shift because you won't be seen through the filter of your own suffering. So the best way to change the world is go in and look at that reflection within yourself and be with your suffering and be with your war, where you war among yourself, inside yourself, shaming yourself, guilting yourself, making yourself suffer. Go in and be with your own war, and your perceptions of out there will shift.
Well said.
Andre, also one last thing before I think we'll need to leave you alone. Remember that you didn't want to be seen at all today.
Wanted to hide.
Well, that didn't quite work out, did it? But anyway, there is a conceptual framework, psychological framework to work with that I kind of feel that you might benefit on. Have you ever heard anything about internal family systems?
I did hear, but
IFS.
I heard about
IFS. It. I think you may try it. It's kind of, well, comes back in my mind when I listen to your struggle. I think it may benefit you. I don't know. You just watch some videos on YouTube. IFS, Internal Family Systems. I sent this to you on the chat, so that you have it. It may work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Seb. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Okay, on that note, we've just hit 2 hours and 40 minutes. So it's time to finish up.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, it was nice.
Thank you all. Bye all.
Bye.